Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Inside Golf. I'm Harry Donahue. We're at Lulu today, but we're going to be talking about Cobbs Creek Golf Course, which opened back in 1916. And when it did open, Cobbs was considered one of the best municipal golf courses in the country. It was designed by Hugh Wilson, who also designed Marion East. And Cobbs was open to everyone, male, female, black, or white. But over time, things didn't go well at Cobbs Creek Golf Course. There were numerous problems, culminating with a group of golfers from the Philadelphia area who were trying to see if they could restore not only the history of Cobbs, but also the championship golf course. And now they're on the brink of doing just that. And they can see that the finish line is in sight. Today we're going to meet from the Cobbs Creek Foundation, the founding CEO, Chris Lang, and the president, Jeff Shanahan. Cobbs Creek, coming up next on Inside Golf. The 25th season of Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf. Your next golf getaway is in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Visit montcogolf.com. By the First Tee Greater Philadelphia. The First Tee not only helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit firstteephiladelphia.org. By the Philadelphia Association of Golf Course Superintendents, a community of professionals enhancing the game of golf since 1925. Make sure you thank your golf course superintendent today. By Gap, celebrating 125 years of amateur golf. By Jersey Man and Philly Man Magazine, a digital publication and private business network. Read the current issue free at jerseymanmagazine.com. By the Haverford Trust Company. For life's must-haves, there's Haverford. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia PGA Section, the experts in the game and business of golf.
Golf is the great equalizer. For many, this journey is an escape from reality, a chance to be part of a team, a career opportunity. PGA Reach impacts lives through golf by lifting people up, giving them hope, and sending them down an alternate path that they never saw coming. With PGA Reach Philadelphia, as in life and in golf, the most important shot you take is the next one.
They're not just familiar faces. They're your friends and neighbors. It's their small businesses, a beating heart that makes a neighborhood a home. The places with a pick-me-up or a story that inspires, where you can share a taste of comfort with the personal touch that makes our world shine a little brighter. Support small and make a big difference. Make it local. Make it Main Street. Make it Montco.
Welcome back to Inside Golf as we trace the history and now the restoration of what has been described as a real treasure to local golf in Philadelphia, Cobbs Creek Golf Club. Joined now by Chris Lang. Chris is the founding CEO of the Cobbs Creek Foundation, which is, for want of a better description, the organization that has been leading the charge to get this all done. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, and Jeff Shanahan. Jeff has been on board with the foundation for almost a year, but you're the hands-on guy. You are the president of the Cobbs Creek Foundation. So I guess the buck stops somewhere near you, right, Jeff?
That's correct.
Okay. Let's talk about, first of all, the history, and it's long, and it's up and down and winding around and everything else. And now it looks like, as a result of an announcement by the city of Philadelphia, Chris, that this project of restoring Cobbs is finally now in your grasp, or in everybody's grasp who knows the history of Cobbs Creek. When did you get involved, and why did you get involved?
Well, yeah, I got involved back in, I'm going to say about 2007, 2008, and the city courses were, an RFP was put out by the city to offer the courses to an operator, and the RFP was for 1 year. We, Larry Kent and myself, kind of looked at it as a business. We were looking at golf as a business opportunity, and looking at the RFP, it didn't seem as though it was much of an opportunity. However, shortly thereafter, Peter Hill the CEO of Billy Casper Golf, entered into a one-year lease agreement. And he was a friend of mine. We played college golf together. And that one-year commitment that he made with the city morphed into a 10-year lease. And so I met with Peter Hill, and he put me in touch with the Friends of Cobbs, Mike Serba and Joe Bausch.
And they were a separate, like, sort of
they
group
were the
of
Friends of
guys
Cobbs, yeah.
who had played there, knew the history, and thought something should be done to try to restore that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll say this, Harry, not only did they know the history, they wrote the history. They painstakingly
Did all the research.
all the research, every article dating back to 1900, and it's a rich history, and anyone can go and view it, but it uncovered all of these wonderful things that the foundation is now very much involved with and restoring. But the thing that really hit home for me was understanding at a meeting with them at Cobbs Creek, the clubhouse, which unfortunately is not around anymore, seeing how the course was altered in the 50s and going back to that original routing. And so it didn't take a rocket scientist, and I'm not a rocket scientist, to determine that it was a fantastic routing. Very much like Marion. Hugh Wilson did it. So we had a meeting, Larry Kent, Jim McGuire, who was my best client for my commercial real estate career. We had a meeting at Jim McGuire's office with Peter Hill, and that was probably in around 2008, and we decided that we would give back to the city in a philanthropic way, that it would be for the city of Philadelphia, and everybody was kind of in agreement. So we began, with the help of Billy Casper Golf, Joe Goodrich, and others, to begin the dialogue with the city. And it took some time, but here we are.
And anytime you deal over that period of time with a municipality, you have different mayor and mayoral administrations, city council, the whole thing. And now, Jeff, you haven't been involved as long as Chris has been in this big movement. But since your involvement and now going forward, what have been some of the major obstacles that you have to deal with and have to deal with down the road?
Sure, yeah, it's a very complex, bold, big project, so there's a lot of different angles to it. We have obviously an environmental aspect to the project, so we have a big creek restoration. We have 3 miles of creek and related tributaries around the property that we need to restore, create better water flow, create retaining walls and floodplains. So that's like a mini project on its own that we've been working with the DEP, the Army Corps of Engineers, and several other groups to help us push that along. So that's very challenging. There's a lot of folks involved, and there's a lot of variables to it. The project overall has got a lot of stakeholders, because we're a nonprofit and we're trying to do good for the community. We have a lot of political officials from the city and the state involved. We've got folks, donors that have a stake in the project. We've got, there's a lot to it, and so it's challenging. And at the end of the day, we also have to raise a lot of money. I mean, this is going to be funded predominantly by private, individuals. There's a lot to the project, so a lot of challenges.
Yeah, and you have a marquee architect involved, Gil Hands. Explain his involvement. When did that start? And that'll mean a great deal, I think, going forward to the completion of Cobbs Creek and the restoration.
Yeah, so his partner, Jim Wagner,
is a Philly guy,
right?
right?
A Philly guy. Went to Cardinal O'Hara. He's a great guy. He really has been on this, and actually the Friends of Cobbs, were talking to Gil and Jim, mostly Jim, very early on. And so they have been, very helpful, to date. And let's face it, they've restored the great golf courses in the United States. They'll do a great job with Cobbs.
It helps to have that marquee name, I think, too, when you're going out to donors or whoever dealing with the city. I mean, they've been around the block and are very successful at what they do. Will the restored Cobbs Creek golf course be the same 18 holes that it was back in 1916? What does this 18-hole project plus a 9-hole short course, the land, where is it going to be? Is it going to be part of what was the original golf course? From a design standpoint.
Yeah, so one of the great things about this is that we will restore the original 18 holes, pre-1950, pre-military installation. And
right.
So when you do that, if you look at it and you go out and walk the property, you see the similarities, that U. Wilson created and the Philadelphia School of Architecture. So that 18 holes will be, you know, the original 18 holes. And then Gil and Jim will be able to work their magic on the 9 holes that will be created, you know, across the street. And the 2 of those courses collectively will have a composite course, you know, in anticipation of a professional
Is it
tournament.
safe to say that, and I've heard the rumblings, that one of the goals is going to be to try to attract either a USGA or a PGA Tour event at Cobbs Creek when all this is said and done?
Yeah, absolutely. The design of the course was done in consultation with the PGA Tour. So, and the infrastructure and the ability to host an event was all thought through. And we've been in communication with the PGA Tour, you know, really on a monthly basis for a long time now. That's absolutely a goal. So it's definitely a PGA Tour stop is the goal for Philadelphia on a regular basis.
Yeah, but we got to walk before we run, so we'll put that on the back burner a little bit. The golf course has a tradition of being very diverse from its very origins in terms of racial lines, genders. I mean, everybody was welcomed at Cobbs Creek. If you read a little bit of the history, you know what we're talking about. That, too, is a big part going down the road in the future of how Cobbs and who is going to be there, correct?
Yeah, it's really sort of the home of black golf, especially from a professional perspective. So the guys that were there playing golf in the you know 30s and 40s really paved the way to break the color barrier on tour. So it's a pretty special place. There's not really any other course in the country that can claim the same kind of history that Cobbs has. So that history is something that we want to preserve and celebrate and really bring into the fabric of the reopening. And we really, you know, we're building this golf course to make sure that it does provide access to all the, you know, youth and you know, people around the golf course in those communities. So it's really important to the whole story.
Yeah, when we talk about growing the game in the Philadelphia area, Cobbs Creek will be front and center on that effort, I think.
And we think nationally.
And nationally. All right, gentlemen, stay with us. We'll be back with Chris and Jeff. We're going to be joined also with a real friend of Inside Golf for years, Joe Logan. Joe's going to add a little perspective historically to what Cobbs Creek was and going forward what it could be. That's next on Inside Golf.
In the country.
With a full range of BMW X vehicles available, no matter what adventure lies around the corner, there's an X for that. Hurry in and lease a 2022 BMW X3 X-Drive 30i for $539 per month.
Welcome back. Inside Golf continues. We're talking about the history of Cobbs Creek Golf Club and going forward, its restoration and the project and what's all involved. We are with Chris Lang, founder and CEO of the Cobbs Creek Foundation, the president of the foundation, Jeff Shanahan, and look at this newcomer on the block. As advertised, this is Joe Logan, no stranger to the show, from myphillygolf.com. You know a lot, too, about Cobbs Creek. You've written about it for years. I mentioned how you were going to add some historical perspective to this golf facility, going back to the 1916 when it opened, when U. Wilson finalized it. What did you learn? What can you
Well,
say?
I mean, it opened in 1916. You know, Hugh Wilson is credited with being the designer, who also designed Marion East. But also he got help from George Crump and several other guys who were part of the Philadelphia School of Architecture.
George Crump, who designed
Pine Valley.
Pine Valley.
And but they were all friends. They all worked together. They shared ideas. It was before the days of guys cutting each other's throats and stuff like that. They all worked together, and the result was this Cobbs Creek, which at the time was hailed as the greatest new municipal course in the country. And I read a day or so ago that the first year or two, it did and like 60,000 rounds.
Are you kidding?
It was like, what? Or it was some huge astronomical, like 3 or 4 or 5 times what a normal golf course. I don't know how they did it, but it's been around. But over the years, it fell into disrepair. Couldn't grow grass on it.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah, really. And the biggest problem is the Cobbs Creek that runs right through it, flooded. So the problem they had was every time you get a decent rain, 3 or 4 holes would be underwater, and they have to close the course, and it would all get washed out. And it was just, no way to keep running the golf course forever anyway. And it was just losing steam. It was going downhill.
We talked in the earlier segment about possibly getting a PGA Tour event or USGA event at Cobbs in the future, but there was a time when Cobbs did host, as recently, for guys our age, as the 50s, they had 2 tour events there.
They had the Daily News Open.
How about that?
And before that, I think they had 4 UGA events in the days when they were pretty limited in who could play. That was a course that blacks could play on.
Well, blacks weren't allowed to be
on the PGA Tour
until the 60s.
Right.
And one of the great players from the pre-days was Charlie Sifford. He called, I believe, Chris, he called Cobbs Creek his home because he had come up here, I think, from the
Charlotte.
south, right,
He grew up in Charlotte. He had a sister or aunt up here, took a bus up here, they lived in West Philly, and he started playing golf at Cobbs Creek and quickly found this is where there was this whole community of like hustlers and black guys who couldn't play anywhere else, and they were good, and they played together. And you know who became eventually a part of that whole thing? Donald J. Trump. When he was at
University of Pennsylvania.
Started playing there.
I read that.
He has great memories of Cobbs Creek.
How about that?
And playing with those guys. They hustled him,
He could afford it.
Not then he could. Well, he probably could.
He probably could. Yeah. So talk about, what you see. I mean, is it possible, do you think, the USGA guys and the tour guys? I mean, boy, what a big star that would be if Cobbs could host one of those
Well,
events.
Philadelphia is the biggest city in the country that does not have a PGA Tour event, and the city has wanted one. The problem they had years ago was finding a sponsor who would do it. But the tour wants something here. The USGA loves Philadelphia, and so listen, where this thing is now compared to where it was when I first started talking to Joe Bausch and Mike Serba, it's grown from their vision of let's renovate this course. Now this project is multiple times bigger and grander and more ambitious, and which I never thought I'd see this happen, and it's happening. I got all respect to you guys for making this happen, because it's been a pipe dream for a long time, and now
it has been for a long time. And Jeff, now that it appears all the obstacles have been handled, and now it's a construction phase, right? And how soon? What's a timeline? What would you like to see as? And I know anytime you build anything, there are delays.
Sure.
What's your timeline?
Yeah, our target timeline is basically site preparation will start this winter, as soon as next week. We will start heavy construction in the spring. We would like to open the educational center and the driving range in 2023, by the end of 2023. And then the course, the 9-hole course, 18-hole old course, and the short course for the youth by the end of, or sometime in 2024.
Okay, so you'll be able to tee it up. Joe will be out there and writing about it, no doubt, on myphillygolf.com. Stay with us. More to come. We'll talk about some of the other aspects of this project. You touched on it, the community center, educational projects, maybe the First Tee's involvement in all this at Cobbs Creek, the new Cobbs Creek, when we continue with Inside Golf. Welcome back. Inside Golf continues. Final minutes here of this show as we talk about the history and now the restoration of a real treasure when it comes to municipal golf right in our own backyard, Cobbs Creek Golf Club. We're with Chris Lang, Jeff Shanahan, and Joe Logan. Let's pick up on the idea that we were talking about at the end of some of the other things beside just an 18-hole golf course. Jeff, there's going to be more at Cobbs. There's going to be a driving range or maybe a restaurant, but what else is going to be there? We talked about possibly the involvement of the First Tee of Philadelphia at Cobbs. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, there's a significant portion of the property that's dedicated to an education and community center. That's also adjacent to the short course, which will be for the youth, a youth golf course on one side, and then also on the other side will be adjacent to the driving range. So that little center will serve as a place where kids will come in, and there'll be a lot more services outside of golf, but there'll certainly be golf-related teaching as well done through that. So,
yeah, and this is an area, Philadelphia I'm talking about, that has seen a lot of daily fee courses go the way of like forever. I mean, they're not there.
Yep.
Okay, they're obliterated by some other development or something like that. So the timing here of restoring Cobbs will do a lot to make available to people who maybe can't afford membership at a private club or don't want to still play golf, and now at a really Class A facility.
yeah, this is going to be a championship world-class golf course right in Philadelphia. We're going to have a 9-hole course as well. We're going to, so it's going to be phenomenal. And as you said, we really we have a deficit of public courses in Philadelphia, so it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's sad to say. And also jobs. It's going to create some jobs for people at the facility. I heard as many as 150 jobs, Chris.
That's correct. Yeah, it'll be a great opportunity. So personally, I'm a country club guy, right? I was lucky enough to be a member of a golf course, Overbrook Golf Club, and so, not just the jobs, but the opportunity for kids to latch onto this game and everything that the foundation will do from an educational standpoint. It's just terrific. So. It's really community-based, and it's something that the city of Philadelphia and the game of golf will be very proud of.
Right. Joe, you've been around a long time. Have you played Cobbs?
Many times, yeah.
Many times.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I have never played Cobbs, but I played Karakong, which is the adjacent golf course. What's going to happen to Karakong? Is some of the holes going to be incorporated into this new design at Cobbs? Or?
The 18 holes at Karakong will turn into a 9-hole course.
Okay.
There will be a few holes from that 9-hole course.
That's short course?
No, so there's an 18-hole old course, obviously Cobbs Creek. You have the 9-hole new course, which is where Karakong is.
Okay.
And then we'll have a 6-ish hole short course near the educational facility.
Are there any other models that you guys have looked at over the course of time? And now I'm sure as president and the man in charge of this, the tip of the spear for this project, what else around the country is even close to what you hope to achieve at Cobbs Creek?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cities in the country that have a Cobbs-type golf course that sort of the city is synonymous with the golf course. Like New York has Bethpage, which is obviously a little outside the city, but Torrey Pines in San Diego. You've got Harding Park in San Francisco, Cog Hill in Chicago, Houston Memorial Park in Houston. So we went out and contacted these venues, tried to find out some information in terms of how many rounds are played, in order, obviously, to forecast our business model. So we've looked at a lot of those, and we think that will be what Cobbs end up as to Philly. It'll be Cobbs Creek will be known as Philadelphia's golf course.
Do you have a big enough parking lot so when people want to pull up there at 10 o'clock the night before their tee time, they can park and camp out or tailgate, whatever it is?
Yes, we are planning significant parking.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting because I've been to Torrey Pines, and that's a special place. And residents out there have an advantage of being able to play at a reduced rate, but other places around, Bethpage, of course, has taken on a life of its own up there. Wouldn't that be amazing if Cobbs Creek, becomes the next Harding Park or Torrey Pines or whatever it is?
Oh, it will be.
Woo!
That's exactly what we're talking about.
That's a lot on your plate, young man. You know that, right? You know what you bargained
Yeah.
for here. And you got, this guy here, I'm sure, is going to be in your ear a lot, right?
Absolutely.
Well, how were you described by somebody? Unflappable and persistent. Would that be a good way to describe Chris Lang? Unflappable and persistent?
Maybe stupid.
Huh? Well, they didn't say that.
No, this was very easy to be persistent about because we're here right now today because of this story, and so nothing's changed. We've got Jeff, who's day to day, doing just a fantastic job, and the story is the story. And the beauty of this is a Philly story. This will be a golf course that will be Philly, and we all love the city. So
I remember watching Jim McKay on ABC, a coverage of the playoff between Trevino and Nicholas at Marion. What was that, 71? And he was talking about the creek that meandered through Marion, and he said it's Cobbs Creek. And, you know, that creek, I know you're going to restore 3 miles of it, you know, and it's not that far from Marion to
No, it's about 3 miles away.
your location.
As the crow
right?
flies, yeah.
But a lot of people didn't know that Cobbs Creek touches both Marion and now the future of the restored Cobbs Creek. And you, Wilson, had his literally fingerprint on both of them. That's
Yeah,
a
it's
pretty amazing
really great story.
There's a lot of storylines here, Joe. A lot of things for you to
one
dig
story I'd
into.
like to finally get to the bottom of is, in the Cobbs Creek, is there an apostrophe or not?
I don't think there
I
is.
can tell you, you can look it up and find it both ways. But there's no
I don't
way-
use
It wasn't Ty Cobb's Creek, right?
Right. I mean, you see, like on the scorecard, I think it's there may be an apostrophe.
never seen an
But You see
apostrophe.
it in newspaper headlines and stuff. There's no apostrophe.
And does the apostrophe
Yeah, we're
come
gonna move forward with
before the S or after? We're going down a real rabbit hole there. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, to Chris Lang, to Jeff, to Joe, you guys, well, I don't know about you, but you two guys have done a great job. You always do a great job, and we're looking forward to maybe having you back on the show and talk about the progression of the restoration.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
At Cobbs Creek. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for this week's show. I'm Harry Donahue. Remember, no matter how bad it's going for you, don't pick up. We'll see you next time on Inside Golf.
The 25th season of Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf. Your next golf getaway is in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Visit montcogolf.com. By the First Tee Greater Philadelphia. The First Tee not only helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit firstteephiladelphia.org. By the Philadelphia Association of Golf Course Superintendents, a community of professionals enhancing the game of golf since 1925. Make sure you thank your golf course superintendent today. By Gap, celebrating 125 years of amateur golf. By Jersey Man and Philly Man Magazine, a digital publication and private business network. Read the current issue free at jerseymanmagazine.com. By the Haverford Trust Company. For life's must-haves, there's Haverford. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia PGA Section, the experts in the game and business of golf.